I just love talking about creativity. I feel
Okay.
like I actually don't really consider myself like the biggest gearhead for me. Like it's all just like tools to achieve like whatever is in my head. So I feel like my passion wasn't really acquiring gear. Initially, it was kind of just like songwriting. I don't know if you know like how I even got into guitar, but I was like really sick, and I taught myself guitar as a way to
Really?
kind of just like you know, and I feel like it saved my life. So it's like
Wow.
really special to me. So yeah, I guess I've always been like stoked on that side, like the therapeutic benefits of music and like just how it can help people feel like they have a healthy outlet, and how you can find a voice on an instrument with instrumental music if you're not like the best at talking or whatever.
I feel like that's so appropriate, like now, like right now, because like last 2 years, like that, like, you know, we talked about shipping guitars all over the country. Like that's what people experienced so much, was they were so depressed or upset or didn't know what to do with themselves. They were stuck at home for so long, and then guitar was like the thing that got a lot of people through.
Definitely.
When we were shutting down, when we were like getting ready to close down, I called Carlos and I said, people are not gonna need cool guitars, they need food and shelter. I thought it was like the end of days. Like I thought we were just like toast. And then people started buying guitars. I was like, what is going on? And like I would say the same kind of thing. Like music is therapeutic and it's awesome and it makes people happy, and people don't come here because they need to, they come here because they want to. They come to music because it brings them joy or happiness or makes them feel good.
I think a lot of people are scared to take up something new because they just lack time. Like it is a resource. And you know, I think when you're working a 9-to-5 job, I've certainly been there. Before all of this, I was an art teacher. So I think it's just difficult to carve out time in a busy schedule to like make room for creative pursuits. And I think what quarantine did for people was it gave them kind of the freedom to explore things that maybe they previously didn't have time for.
Yeah. What drew you to the guitar, first of all, out of all the instruments?
So I guess like my relationship with music when I was younger wasn't necessarily like a positive one. I was definitely forced to play piano when I was 4, and then violin. And I was doing a bunch of competitions, and I kind of just did them because my parents told me to do it. And it wasn't really something that I did for myself. And I mean, long story short, I got really sick with an eating disorder, and I was in the hospital on and off for like 4 or 5 years. And during that time, I had a lot of time to explore different outlets. Like I was doing art therapy, but then I really wanted to learn guitar, so I had an acoustic, and I was just writing songs and like teaching myself alternate tunings too. Like I didn't even start in standard. I was just like immediately like tuning to something different, which is probably blasphemous to a lot of people. But you know, I think what made it so special to me was I grew up watching a lot of bands play, and I always kind of like, you know, someone who was kind of raised on classical music. There's something really exciting about like the energy at a rock show. I used to sneak out all the time. I wasn't like a troubled kid or anything, but definitely like a lot of my friends wanted to go see bands, and I also wanted to as well. So I would sneak out and go to shows, and there's something really cool about the energy in a room. Like everyone at a show already has something in common, is their love for music or a love for a specific band that's playing or an artist that's playing. So it was kind of a great way for me to make friends too. And yeah, I was like, that's so cool. It's like a bunch of friends playing music on stage. I want to do that. But I never thought that I'd actually like be doing that. It wasn't until I just like wanted to write music on guitar. Like I think something about guitar just seemed like so expressive and cool, as opposed to like being in that like more sterile, quiet classical environment. So yeah, I taught myself just because I was like, you know, my parents had like a piano teacher and a violin teacher for me, and I kind of just wanted to go rogue, you know. So yeah, I kind of already had like the ear from a lot of classical training, learning violin and piano, and I think it made picking up guitar a lot easier.
That's awesome. What was the process like in terms of you know, working with Ibanez to bring out your artist model?
It was definitely collaborative. Initially, I kind of was like, wow, really? I can like release a signature? It was kind of shocking to me. and I was talking with my artist rep about what sort of guitars would be suitable. Admittedly, I was pretty green. I hadn't really tried much yet. Like I started out playing extended range guitars, like headless 7 strings from this company called Strandberg.
Yep.
And they're great, but it definitely, I feel like I'm more of like a traditional guitar player. Because my first guitar is actually an SX Tele. I didn't have money at the time, so I traded a drum machine for that SX Tele from my friend in Louisiana. We were just online pen pals.
Awesome.
So he sent me the guitar and I was like, that's so cool. So I like started playing on a Tele pretty much. And yeah, Mike was like, hey, we have this, because I always thought Ibanez was like shredder guitars.
Right.
You know, like they got the Gem, they got like
Yep.
RG series. That was another guitar that I started out on. But yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm more like, I don't know, the kind of music I play isn't necessarily like shred. It's detailed, but it's not, I don't consider it like particularly like virtuosic, like soloing and stuff, which I think is really cool, but I just like never really like wrote like that. So yeah, he was like, how would you like to try out one of our Talmans? And then that's when I kind of got introduced to this model of guitar, and we kind of just started from there. I think the most like custom thing about it for me is definitely, I always liked thin necks. I think this has the U-shaped neck. It's not the skinniest wizard neck or whatever, but I feel like this is definitely comfortable. The tuning, it comes, I know this was in standard when I walked in here.
But I saw that you ship them, or they ship them in an alternate tuning.
Yeah, FACGBE, which is, fun fact, is the first tuning I ever started playing around in.
Very cool.
I got it from this band called Toe.
Okay.
And what else? String gauge, I think there's 11s on here. Because of the tapping stuff I do, I kind of prefer like thicker strings, and I feel like 11s are in a nice place where you still get like really good tapping tone. It's not too bendable so that you like tap stuff sharp or flat, but you can still like do like a tasty little bend, a little pitch bend if you want. It's got the, oops, I'm like shedding. Tour is rough. I'm just kidding.
Whoever gets the guitar is gonna like they you know.
Yeah. Pickups, I think the Seymour Duncan Alnico 5.2 Strat set.
Did you try out different pickups? Like when you were kind of crafting this thing, like did they put a couple of different pickups in your hand and that's how you ended up with these? Or did they just say, hey, we think this is gonna meet your style, and they kind of throw those in?
I was new to the world of pickups as well. I started out, the SX Tele actually had a pair of Bill Lawrence pickups in it. I forgot the exact model, but I know it was like a really one-off custom hand-wound set. And I just like, as soon as I started playing single coils, I was like, yes. This is my sound, you know. I'm able to, I just need something that's really dynamic, ultimately, because when you play fingerstyle, I need to be able to get like, you know, attack if I want to dig in, or I want to make my amp break up, push the tubes or whatever if I dig in, but I also want like, to be able to hold back and play delicately and have it like be sparkly and clean. And yeah, I just like pickups that convey a lot of detail and are very dynamic. So they sent I think it came stock with the 5.2 Strat set, and I just ended up really liking it.
Awesome. You did your first model, and then kind of getting into the YY20. What was different? What did you want to change about it? How did that evolve, or what did you want out of the next instrument?
I think the most notable thing about it is the color. I just love orange. But then another notable thing is that it's the Tele set, so I thought like it would be fun, because I play both technically. My first guitar was a Telecaster.
Yeah.
So I thought it'd be kind of fun to pay tribute to that first guitar and release like a Tele version with the 5.2 Tele set.
Awesome. I know you use Vox amps too. How did you land on that being like your amp of choice?
I'm realizing in this interview that I'm just like a super like loyal person, and I feel like I just like find something I like and I just like commit to it, and I'm like not really gonna explore much outside of it. Vox, my first amp was an AC4 TV, little tiny tube amp. I was at UCLA, and there's like a music store close by, and there happened to be like a little tube amp. And I was like, oh shoot, I'm just gonna buy that because I like how it looks, and
Yeah.
I think like my friend was like, you should try a tube amp. So I didn't know any better. I bought it, and I ended up really loving it. And then I was like, you know what? I think I need more headroom, like a little more wattage. So I just got the entire line of AC10, AC15, AC30.
It's awesome.
But yeah.
That's usually how it starts. That first passion of just like holding the instrument, like then you become a telly person or whatever it is. So I feel like it's a story we hear often here that, oh, that was my first guitar and I've always wanted to play that again, or something like that, or my dad had a Vox and so I need a Vox, or something along those lines. So there's something to be said for that first thing you have that chance to experience is kind of what sets you on the path to do what's next. Not everyone has those chances to try it. You know, and we don't all live in a music store and can like look at every guitar ever. It's usually just what you had around you and found your way to use it.
Yeah, I will say I did have like a bunch of different guitars. Like I had the Strandbergs, I had my original SX Telly. I have like even Talmans. Like I ended up with like 4 of them initially, and it's crazy. Like I feel like as a songwriter, I actually think I consider myself more of a I identify with songwriter more than like virtuosic guitarist, because I feel like I only got like good at guitar just as a means to achieve the stuff that I wanted to write. That was always the end goal, is writing like a good, compelling song. I tend to just reach for whatever inspires me the most. So like sometimes a guitar can be aesthetically cool, or it can like be like a nice boutique thing, but it just doesn't do the thing that like gives me the tingles when I like play, you know? Like I feel like when you dial in that perfect tone and you're playing on something that just like gels with you, then so much creativity can come out of you. And conversely, I feel like I've definitely sat down at instruments that were like good and fine instruments, but maybe for my particular style, it wasn't right, and it just made me cranky. Because I'm like, it's not doing the thing that I want it to do.
Yeah.
So I think by trying a bunch of different things, I learned what I did like and what I didn't like, even within the same guitar. And yeah, there's definitely guitars that I just always reach for, no matter what. That's
cool. I mean, it's gotta feel right. It's gotta look right. You gotta feel like a rock star when you're holding it. So you want to play like a rock star.
Definitely, yeah. I think for me the most important thing when playing guitar is ultimately how it sounds and then how it feels. So.
It's awesome. And so I know you use a ton of pedals, and you said that you don't necessarily know exactly what you're looking for, but you've amassed at least a collection of them.
Oh yeah.
I'm just like, how does that come about? What was like the first pedal that you got that like is on that pedal board still, and how did it like evolve to become this tone shaping, like, it's almost like another instrument that you have.
Yeah.
How did that, I'm just curious kind of how that all happened.
So I think like initially I was really intimidated by it because I was an acoustic player first. So I was like, what are all these knobs? Like, I'm not a tech person. This thing looks really scary. But then I remember in college I bought a looper. I think it was a Line 6 DL4. And even though the loop time was kind of short, I would just like loop something and write over it. And it was like a compositional tool for me. And you could do all kinds of cool things like, reverse, slow down, all of that. So then I started being a little more confident operating such machinery. But yeah, I guess like I really started seeing the value of effects, I think, just when I started writing music for like a band proper. Coming from a visual arts background, I studied fine arts and education. So as I mentioned earlier, I taught art first. For me, like when I write a song, the melody is kind of like just a black and white drawing, and then effects are a really great way to color in parts of the drawing to help your story come to life.
That's awesome.
So I have a lot of fun coloring in my riffs with different things, like, you can fatten up a section with an octave. I have an OC5 that I really love. Chorus can give something kind of like a sparkly, nostalgic feel. It can add like a moodiness to it. I love delay. It opens up certain things a lot. You can play with it rhythmically. I have a Carbon Copy Deluxe that I love a lot, and an Avalanche Run, and it can make something sound like fireworks, like it's blooming. So these are little things little tricks I like to do to make riffs sound a little more interesting.
You say you're not a gearhead, but you're totally a gearhead.
Like I said, I don't read manuals or anything. I just kind of like twist stuff until I'm like, oh, that's cool.
You know, like some people, like they know, oh, I got the blue one and I got the other pedal, but like you know the tools, you know what they do to the sound. Like you know when you grab that paintbrush what it's gonna do to your music, and that is.
Yeah.
I love that. I mean, that's like mathematical almost. Like it's math and art in the same thing. Like you know, okay, here's my sound. If I hit this pedal, it's gonna do this to my sound, and you kind of know where you're going with it before you hit that button.
Yeah, it's cool because I say that I use pedals to color in my like black and white line art riffs, but then another thing that I feel like effects have done is it does transform my playing. Definitely, I think the most important thing about using pedals is being a listener, and so not trying to force a certain thing to happen. I know when I plug in dry, I tend to be very verbose. Like that is just my writing style. A lot of polyphony, just detail everywhere, just maybe trying to fill in every little space. But one thing I started appreciating about using effects is like really, like especially when I started doing more demos, I started listening to what the effect does and like, you know, allowing, like for instance, the decay of a reverb to fill in that space and appreciating that. So it totally transforms how I write. When I plugged into fuzz, it started making me write like gloomier, darkier, darkier. I guess that's a word now.
It is today.
Gloomier, dark, sludgier things. So yeah, it's a great way to kind of just like force yourself to listen. And if you're feeling uninspired, maybe take on a new voice.
Awesome.